Coming up on iOS today, it's time to stop, collaborate, and listen. Yes, it is time to talk about collaborating using your iPhone, your iPad, and all of your Apple devices. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is iOS Today, episode 639, recorded Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. iOS Collaboration Stations. Welcome back to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS and tvOS and HomePodOS and watchOS and iPadOS and all of the OSs Apple has on offer. We love to talk about them here on iOS Today, as well as how you can use those devices and the apps that are available and the services that are available to mix it all together in a smoothie of amazingness that is this experience. I am one of your hosts today, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary. Hey, everybody.
Hello, Rosemary. How's it going today?
I mean, it's pretty good, Mikah. I'm sharing some stuff with you, and there's the option for you to just go in there and do stuff, because we figure why not have a look at actually collaborating, seeing as Apple's making a huge thing about this in iOS 16, and they've really massively improved all this stuff.
Yeah, they pushed this to the forefront for sure in iOS 16, where you can pretty much find a collaboration button in any of the built-in apps. It's kind of wild how much Apple has said, hey, look, if you want to start working with somebody here, you can. If you want to start working with somebody here, you can. And I think a big part of that, of course, is the fact that many of us are working from home, you know the words, and we are all, trying to get things done that we need to get done, or in some cases, help other people get things done that need to get done. And having this kind of quick way to work together across all sorts of different apps is quite handy, I've found, even if you're not using it necessarily. I think sometimes these features, they can seem, oh, maybe that feature's not for me. That's not intended for me. I can't make use of that. No, I think anybody could find a reason to want to use one of these apps with collaboration for a number of different reasons. So let's dig in and talk about how we can collaborate, starting with kind of just the general use of iCloud as a collaboration mechanism, if you will.
Yeah, because of course, iCloud is the feature that everybody who's got an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac has available to them. And you can use a number of the features of iCloud to sync your data to other places. And so, of course, iCloud also includes backups. So if you're backing up your device, then you are probably backing up to iCloud. And if you have a friend or family member who refuses to pay those 99 cents a month, they probably get that message every once in a while say, they're running out of space, and you have to go in and do some fancy work to clean things up and clear things out and so on for them. But there are so many things that just sync through iCloud. But once a folder is in iCloud or a file is in iCloud, you can share that with somebody, and you can just give them a link, and then they can go download that and use that. But that's kind of just like the basic tip of the iceberg, because beyond that, you can actually both edit the same document at the same time. And I mean, I don't know about you, Mikah, but I've been trying that new Notes collaboration feature, and it is amazingly good. Like, I write in a document and I can see the other person writing in a document as well, and it's just bam, it works perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I found as well. It just works, and that's how you want to be able to use the system. You just want it to just work, and it does, and that makes it delightful.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what I've just done over here on my iPad, which I can show everybody, is I've just created a note called Hi Mikah, or actually I created this one in iOS Today a while ago. We were looking at the hashtag movie and trying to automatically add that to our notes. But I've shared this with Mikah. And so I'll just expand the note, so if you're watching, you don't have the sidebar to distract you. And at the top, along with all of the buttons, next to the share button, I can also see Mikah's little profile picture. And if I tap on that, then I can see that it's sharing with him for collaboration. And if I didn't already have this note shared, then what I would just do is tap on the share button. And then it pops up here at the top, the Notes app icon, the name of the note or the title of the note. And then there's a little drop down that says collaborate or send copy. And if you send somebody a copy of it, then obviously that's just a copy. But once you send somebody a collaboration invite, then you can go and write stuff and say whatever. But the other person can also be writing and adding stuff to this at exactly the same time as you. And even if you don't think, oh gosh, we're not both going to be in there at the same time, imagine how useful this is for things like trip planning. So say, for example, you're planning a trip somewhere and you want to be able to share ideas with the people that you're going with and so on. You can put all of them in this note. Everybody can add to it. And it doesn't matter if 2 of you are in there at the same time. It doesn't matter if 10 of you are in there at the same time. Everything that you add is just available to everybody else instantly. And of course, you've got all those other great notes features where, for example, if I tap on the camera, as well as doing things like just taking a photo or inserting a photo, I can also scan a document or even scan text. And so you get all of the great features of the app, plus the ability to do, all of this work at the same time as each other and really work together. And of course, then, Mikah, you can take it a step up later with that FaceTime integration as well, so that you can really actually collaborate on things with that SharePlay feature. But we'll have to get to that later.
Yes. I have a shared note with quite a few. Like, I have different shared notes with different people for all sorts of reasons. We have our groceries that during the pandemic, we started ordering our groceries to have them delivered. And one of the things early on that I noticed is the place where I live is kind of confusing to find the doors for people's homes. And so my groceries kept getting delivered to the wrong houses. So I finally wrote this whole bit of text that explained how to find the place. And I had like a map that had these arrows drawn on it to show which path to follow, the whole 9 yards. And so then I started having successful deliveries. My partner, on the other hand, was not. Still getting delivered to the wrong place. And so I shared that note so that those instructions were always available. And of course, that is a situation where simply sending a copy would work. But if I ever made an update to it or made a change based on how people were responding to it or not, then that is synced. So then he would have the latest version of that and be able to do that. I've also created lists of stuff, if you have friends or family or whomever that you watch stuff with, you watch TV shows or movies, and you kind of go, oh, have you ever seen? And they say, no, I've never seen that. Added to this list of, oh, these are the films that we need to see together because you haven't seen that. I'd like to see your experience with that film or that TV show. So that can be kind of fun. And again, these are simple reasons to use it. It doesn't always have to be the way that we've talked about it in the past, Thanksgiving, prep or anything like that. Trip planning is a great suggestion that you mentioned earlier. So just so many opportunities available, and all of these tools are built right in. You don't have to go and get a special app to do it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that you get if you turn on iCloud family sharing, and so you have an iCloud plan that you share with your family, and this could be like the Apple One tier, or it's just iCloud family sharing. Other than that, you get a family calendar and a family reminders list automatically, which are just shared. And Apple just enabled this for everybody. And I think a lot of folks don't realize that this is using those same core underlying collaboration features, which makes iOS so good. And, it's one of those things where just being able to go, hey, okay, so like there's a bunch of stuff that we need to get done. Using the example of travel planning, you might have a note for all the places you want to go, and another note where you want to, store your accommodation information, another note for travel information. You can share a whole folder from notes. But you can also have a reminders list of stuff that you need to do before you go, and a shared packing list of, we only need one of these things in total, but let's make sure that we've got one of them, and we don't assume that Mike is bringing the camera, and then Mike assumes that Rose is bringing the camera and causes all this. Ones where actually there's no camera. Oh my gosh, what do we do? Turns out your phone's a pretty great camera, actually. But we then got shared photo albums and things like that as well, which takes it up another level. And of course, the photos libraries are now able to be shared too, so that you can really get all of these benefits from all of the places, and then it bleeds down into the individual apps.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of this, and there's a great support article that we'll link to, is again with the introduction of iOS 16, iPadOS 16, there are these new underlying features that kind of tie everything together. And so you'll notice that because Rosemary shared with me the document, the notes document for iOS today called Hi Mikah, then up in the Messages app, at the top, you can see a banner here that says Rosemary made edits to 2 collaborations. I could tap review and then see what changes were made. And our conversation, our text conversation in Messages will continue to have that information regularly updated and provided to me. Very handy to be able to kind of constantly be aware of what's going on, what changes are taking place, and know that, these are the updates that have been made. And I'll show you really quick. When I tapped to review them, it shows Rosemary made edits to iOS today, which is the Freeform collaboration document. I can either show it to look at it quickly, and then Rosemary made edits to Hi Mikah. I can show that to see it, or just tap ignore. So those updates are available to me, or I can ignore them if I, will check. Oh, I'll check in on that later. But constantly being able to have that right there and say, oh, this is what it does. This is what someone's done to this document recently. And maybe it's one of those situations where you are, you've sent this project out to, 5 people, and there's the one person whose response you're kind of looking for. So throughout the day, you could check in and wait until Raul Zippo, there's a Zippo nearby. Raul Zippo has finally made that change, and you go, okay, now I want to hop in and see what changes have been made.
Yeah. And I actually just want to piggyback off of what you said there, Mikah, because I can again see that Mike has made changes in here, which, fun fact, if I pop into the Hi Mikah note, once that pops open, which it should do, where's it gone? There it is. I can see a lovely little picture of Mizzy. That is Mizzy, isn't it? Right? Not
that
Henry?
Is Mizzy. Oh,
Excellent.
Snaps for Rosemary.
I've been working on that. But what you can also do is if I tap on the Mikah here at the top, okay, I'm not going to go into info because I don't want to show everybody his profile information. But if I check into collaboration, then I can actually see the shared things that I have with Mikah here. And so I have a note, I have 2 Freeform documents, and I have reminders. And I can see that, and I can see everything that I have shared with Mikah or that Mikah has shared with me. It doesn't matter which way round it's gone. These are the things that we are collaborating on. And of course, I can actually, if I wanted to, I could get rid of one of these and say, no, we're not collaborating on the untitled Freeform attachment anymore. We're just collaborating on the iOS Today Freeform document. But this is just a really nice feature. Also, a little bonus, if you scroll down, you can also see photos, links that you've sent each other, documents that you've sent each other, and so on and so forth. So, tapping on the little person at the top of your message is definitely a good idea if you want to check out the things that you've been sending back and forth and what you're working on right now.
We are incredibly productive. Look at all those different pieces we're sharing with one another. Pretty awesome. Now, it is not just kind of the I think, traditional places. We think of calendars, we think of shared notes, we think of shared reminders, but this exists across all sorts of apps in iCloud, including things like the Photos app, where you can collaborate on a shared album, and in Health, where you can share health information with family members. In fact, there's an episode of Hands on Mac all about using the sharing features in Health to share with specific people, or have specific people share with you. But one place that I think folks might not realize is a place that they can collaborate is in Safari. Tell us about that.
All right, Mikah, I knew where you were going with this. And
did.
I feel like I won the lottery there, because just as Mikah said Safari, I sent Mikah a shared tab group for Safari. So Safari has this great concept called tab groups, where in Safari, and I'm here on my iPad at the moment, over on this left-hand side, there's an icon. It kind of looks a little bit like a book. But if you tap on that, so it's a rectangle, there's a narrow rectangle on one on the left-hand side of it with a couple of horizontal lines in, and then a wider space. Once you open open that sidebar, then you can see tab groups. And so from here, I could go to my start page or to private browsing. But up in the top right, I can also tap on plus and create a new tab group. And a tab group is intended as it's kind of a halfway house between bookmarks and just a window. So a tab group I can take and I can open the same tab group on another device. And if I collaborate on this tab group, then I can actually share this with Mikah, and I can see he's actually added 9 to 5 Mac. And I can see there's a little MS over here on the right-hand side of this tab. And that's because Mikah is on the same tab as me. And so, if I, scroll down, then I can add all of those things. If I want to open something in the background, then I can do that. And this has been shared directly with Mikah. What is also really cool with Safari, as a side note, is if you tap and hold on a link or tap on it, then you can choose to open a link in a specific tab group. So if you're just browsing around the internet and you think, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I need to share this with Mikah, then first of all, you should probably have a tab group shared with Mikah like I do. But, that notwithstanding, you can put that into your shared tab group for that group of people. So it doesn't matter if you're not in that mode already. Then you can just pop into it and share things. And I can see up next to the share icon, there's a little icon of a person with a check mark on it. And then I can see that it's being shared with Mikah. I can also manage this and I can remove it. I can copy a link to it. I could share it with more people, whatever. I'm not going to tap on Mikah because I don't want to accidentally share his phone number with everybody. But this is just a really nice way of being able to share some links with somebody without having to make a notes document and paste all of your links in there or something, and then somebody pastes something in it's in a different format and so on. And this way I can even see, if I'm talking to Mikah on the phone, I can see that he's on this tab. So if I'm talking about something over here on the iOS Today page, which maybe I'm talking about episode 683, and look at my hair. It's got blue at the top, it's got purple down closer to the roots, and I can see Micah's not even on the same page as me. Literally. That's what's really cool about Safari tab groups.
That is awesome. So I'll be honest, I did not know about the little icon that pops up to let you know that you are, viewing the same tab. That part is really nice because then you, as you point out, know that you're on the same page, so to speak, and can work together. When tab groups first launched, I really liked them because it was a way for me to, used to, whenever I was doing the Saturday radio show, I would collect all of the links from the different pages that we used to talk about it to help people answer their questions. And then I would do that on the MacBook Air that I have. But when I got home and wanted to get all of those links saved and put together, I had all of the sort of automations that you have helped me build and that others have helped me create on my Mac Studio. So I would use a tab group to open up all those tabs real quick and have them right there. But then I was running some betas, and during the betas, the tab groups were not syncing at all, and it was a mess. And so I've kind of avoided tab groups a little bit, but I'm glad to see that they are back in working order now, because the tab groups are how my mind works. And so I wanted to use them more, but I did not like that I kept losing tabs that I had because of the bugs that I experienced. So it's good to see that worked out, and really cool to see this collaboration for those tab groups.
Yes, I do just want to add a tiny caveat to tab groups, which is if you are a Mac user and you're using Safari Technology Preview, tab groups do not sync between Safari Technology Preview installs or between Safari Technology Preview and Safari. This was something that confused me no end for ages because I was using Safari. It should work. And then I realized Safari Technology Preview is not the same as Safari. It's the next release. So if you are using a purple Safari on your Mac and you're wondering why your tab groups aren't syncing, that's probably why I fell into that same trap. But now I'm using Safari.
Because you had to have the purple one.
Of course. It's fine. I have a purple Safari in the dock on my iPhone, and this is a very special Safari because it just, whenever I tap it, it opens a new DuckDuckGo tab so I don't get distracted, which is very useful. I could even have it open in a specific tab group if I wanted.
Nice. All right, let's go classic. These are the apps that I think you would expect to feature collaboration because many of us are using similar collaboration documents on the reg, typically online. Pages, Numbers and Keynote, aka Apple's iWork suite, is full of collaboration ability. Tell us about that, because I think as we were getting started with the show, you kind of had started to set up a one of these apps with some collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, because I was just talking to Kevin, one of the lovely folks behind the scenes at Twit before the show, about Keynote. And Keynote is a great app for your iPad, which allows you to make really pretty presentations. So I've just used a default presentation theme here. It's got a lovely sort of gradient of a light blue through to a lovely magenta on the title text, which I've set to Hello World. And so what I can do, of course, I can tap on that share icon. I could, if I wanted to, instead of sharing with collaboration, send a copy. I'm going to collaborate on this presentation 16 with Mikah. I apologize, Mikah, for my poor document naming, but you are welcome to adjust that, which is something that you are able to do, of course, as a co-owner of the document. And apparently I've not shared a Keynote document before, so it's given me a little info pop-up about seeing the latest activity, where it says all participants can now view the latest updates to a collaborative presentation, see a list of everyone's changes, and get notified when people join, edit, or comment. And I'm just going to tap continue on that because I don't really want to, spend a lot of time working on that at the moment. Okay, fine, you can access my contacts. But one of the features that you can use with Keynote, which is something that I really like, and one of the reasons why I'm using Keynote for this demo, is because it's got some really great animation built in. And you know that there's always like that one person who's really great at presentation and one person who's really good at content and so on. Well, Keynote is an ideal tool for demoing this. So somebody could be going through making great slides with really good content on, and then somebody else is like, I'm just going to make this a little bit more magic. So what I've done is this first slide, I just put Hello World in the title field. I moved it to the top. Okay, and then I duplicated the slide, and then if I tap on that slide on the left-hand side, or if I right-click on it, if I'm using a trackpad, then I can just set the transition. And you can actually use a transition called a magic move. So I've set this up, and so my first slide has a magic move transition set on it. And so now what happens, if I don't close my presentation, then when I play my presentation, then it starts with Hello World somewhere above the halfway mark. And then when I go to the next one, it slides that all the way down to the bottom and moves it magically. And isn't it great to be able to collaborate with somebody else on this so that you don't have to learn how to do all of these things, but you can go back and find out how they did it later so that you can improve all of the other work that you end up collaborating on? This is one of the reasons why I love collaboration.
Yeah, it's so nice to see also just how other people work in general, and get some tips and tricks from that. I also like, especially Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, if you, for example, do budget stuff with your loved ones, or if you, again, are working out, a trip, and you're trying to figure out expenses for that trip. Numbers, is a great place to hop in and have all of that data right there, get it all figured out. The graphs and charts and just the sort of general, I think, design and aesthetic quality of these three apps is what sets them apart. They really are quite shocking in just how lovely they are to use, how simple they are to use, but how powerful they are kind of behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. I do want to just give a quick shout out to the Pages team, by the way, because I'm in Pages. Okay, I've just got a template document of a project proposal here. But if I just scroll down to an empty space and I tap on the table and I insert a table, this is not just a table. This is a mini version of Numbers built into Pages. Okay, so if I have, I don't know, I'm just going to put 1 and 2 on the left-hand side, just so that I can do this. And then if I pop in the equals, or at least I did this earlier, you can actually do like formulas and stuff. If you copy over a numbers like table from one of the number sheets, you actually get like all the formulas and everything in there, and it just keeps on working. It's amazing. Like genuinely, seriously impressive work. So yeah, definitely worth checking this stuff out, especially if you feel like you haven't, really used Pages and Keynote and Numbers before. There's a lot of very cool features in there that are highly worth taking advantage of.
Now, one app that is fairly new, no, not even fairly new, is quite new, that has just rolled out to different devices that are, of course, able to support it, is the collaboration app that is kind of I wouldn't call it the backbone. It's more the showcase of the collaborative options and abilities that Apple has. And that is the app called Freeform. Freeform is a collaborative whiteboard app made by Apple. And I believe we've talked a little bit about it on the show before. As you will notice here on this iPad, I happen to have some text that includes iOS today. This is a document that or is this a new one? Or was this from before whenever we talked about it? Okay,
this is a new one. So I'm actually writing, and it should just pop up on the screen in just a moment. It's showing on I wrote it on my iPad. It's already showing on my iPhone, so it should be with you in just a moment on your screen, Mikah, the text that I've just written. There we go.
Yes, there Awesome. It is. Hello. And then I could say in return, because I've got my Apple Pencil here. And so let me get my marker out. Of course, we'll do it in green. And I will say, hi, Rose. And so then eventually that will sync its way over to Rosemary. Now, there's this sketching stuff that we're showing, which is kind of at the basic set of features available, but it goes much further than this. I mean, you have the option to, as you see there, add sticky notes. You can also add photos. So you could do screenshots and make notes on those screenshots. There's lots of annotation features. And then I think it's kind of amazing how jam-packed the shapes are. There are so many shape options for basic stuff, geometry. So if you're teaching, you might use that. Check out these different objects. I mean, you could start to make characters. So I could give this green star a mustache if I wanted, although that's kind of hard to see. So I might want to change the color here to a nice black. And now this green star has a mustache, which is how it should be. And then I could, give it some little eyes if I want to as well. Make those black as well. So obviously this is probably not what you're going to be using the app for. You will be, collaborating, creating, and making notes of different things. And here, yes, Rosemary shows this is a thumbnail from whenever we were talking about HomePod. And I could then say, I'll switch to my pen and I'll change the color to yellow. And then what I'll do is say, I'll point an arrow at that and say this, and forgive my handwriting because I've got my iPad all wonky, is cool. And so then I could send that along to Kevin and say, basically, great job on that thumbnail. It looks great. And there's our show artwork. Yay!
Yeah. So what I'm doing over here, Mikah, well, you've been busy talking and actually, doing all hard work, is I have been playing around. So I've got Safari and Freeform in split screen. And what you can actually do with this is you can actually just drag in links or similar into your Freeform document. And those are actual links, to be clear. So, if I then want to tap on this, then I can actually open that link and view it. Or I can edit it and do other things. So there are two modes in Freeform, essentially, where you can be going around editing things, or you can actually, go ahead and view all the stuff. And it's opening on the left-hand side. If I open a brand new tab, actually, that might be a little easier for folks to see. When I tap on that little eye icon, there we go. It actually loads that page for me because I'm in split screen. And it's really cool that I can just drag something into here that, I want to keep around. So let's tell you what, let's go really nuts here. I'm going to just shrink Keynote, and I'm just going to drag my Keynote file in, and that will, in just a moment, hopefully actually appear. But similarly, I can actually even drag in an individual slide from Keynote when I'm ready to, and that will just appear as an image. So this is just really useful for all sorts of kind of collaboration stuff where you just want the ability to just dump something. And this is a huge pan in all directions, zoom out, zoom in, whatever you want to do with it document. It isn't a folder with lots of different files and so on in. If you were looking for that, you probably want an iCloud shared folder. But for I just need to be able to have a big space, like a whiteboard where we can just write stuff and scribble and doodle and drag things in that are useful to us. It is so useful. I really recommend it.
Nice. And then last but not least, there's one more sort of collaborative feature. This is a little bit less about getting work done and more about spending time together. We had talked in the past about apps that support SharePlay. SharePlay is a technology that lets multiple people in different locations essentially stream the same content together and either interact with it in the case of some games that support SharePlay, or view/listen in the case of music apps, or excuse me, in the case of streaming media apps and music apps respectively. So depending on what you're using, SharePlay can help you. If you are, there's a new album out and you want to listen to it with your best friends who also like this particular artist. Now I can't think of his name from earlier, Edwin Zippo, whatever his name was. Mr. Zippo's new album is out, and you and your favorite Zippo heads are wanting to listen to the album together. You could launch the music app, you could play that, and then use SharePlay to actually listen with other people. So here I am in the music app. Whoops, wrong device there on my iPad. And up in the top right is my favorite icon, the three dots, which is the More button. And here you'll see an option that says SharePlay. When you tap on SharePlay, it'll tell you, hey, this lets you SharePlay. This is how it works. And then you choose different people that you want to SharePlay with whom you want to SharePlay. And it will send it to all of them at the same time. Everybody hops on together, can listen to it. People can, pause or play it. Whenever you restart the track, it will sync on their end as well. And so it's a smart system that is keeping in mind everybody's different network connections and making sure that you're all in sync. And what I love about it is that along with music, along with video, it also supports gaming. Different types of games will feature this. So you can end up kind of playing online board game style things where you can actually see your friends and family as you all participate. I think that part makes it awesome.
Yeah. I have to say, I really love how the SharePlay integrates with things like Disney Plus and so on too, so that you can actually genuinely watch something together, even if you are miles away from your family and friends. You don't have to be physically together to be able to do this stuff. And as we all know, in the world that we're now in, a lot of folks have ended up moving around and scattering and spreading out. That doesn't mean that you have to lose touch. And it's tools like this that will really allow us to stay in touch with one another in the best of ways that we're all very used to.
And with that, we have reached the end of the collaboration segment of the show. Rosemary and I will continue to collaborate, but we've reached the end of talking about collaboration methods on iOS, iPadOS. I hope that you got some inspiration, maybe found some new options that you didn't realize were there, or just had that moment of like, oh yeah, I'm already doing that. Feeling a little smug, but proud. It's fine. I'm glad. You're going, oh yeah, I knew about that. I use that all the time. I'm proud of you. That's great. So whether it is new to you or it's old news to you, hopefully you got a little something out of that segment. But it is time to talk about the news now. It is time to move on for the headlines. Up first, there is a bit of a public service announcement. If you were thinking about trading in your iPhone, you may want to do it now. And the reason that I say that is because prices seem to be changing, and they're changing in ways that may or may not be favorable for you. So, the sooner you do that trade in, likely the better it is going to be for you. What's going on with trade-in prices, Rosemary?
Yeah, so it looks like the newest iPhone models have dropped about $80 in trade-in value with Apple, whereas some older models such as the iPhone 7, 8, and the 10 are staying at the same prices. So there are more refurb models available on the Apple Store. If you are looking to buy a refurb model, that's great for you. If you were looking to trade it in with Apple, then you may not be getting quite as much money as you were looking at before. But don't forget that Apple, if you have an old device, like a really old device, I traded in a 6S Plus recently. It was free. I didn't get any money for it, but Apple will actually take apart all of those old devices and recycle them properly. So that was a win there, making sure that doesn't go into landfill and the battery doesn't just randomly explode on somebody somewhere. So that was good. But looks like trade-in prices are changing. And of course, Apple doesn't necessarily give you the best value for money, but they do let you just bring in an iPhone and walk out with a new iPhone. So there's definitely pros and cons.
Indeed. So yes, get those trade-ins in. Then Apple has gotten some praise for its new Emergency SOS via satellite feature. We heard some complaints about the crash detection from emergency responders, in that it seemed to be doing a lot of false positives, where folks were saying, no, I'm actually not in a crash, but the emergency services had already been called by that point. So it's good to see some positive stuff as well, this time with Emergency SOS via satellite. Of course, this is the feature that uses your iPhone's built-in, certain iPhones' built-in tech to find and communicate with satellites in, obviously, outer space, or in space, I should say, and then send small messages to nearby emergency responders through different means. It's all like I've gone into detail. We've both gone into detail on this show, and then I also have an episode of Hands on Mac all about it as well. So if you're curious about the details there, you can get that. But Rosemary, it sounds like the early reviews suggest that it is working as intended.
Yeah, it certainly does. So basically, emergency response crews are going, hey, iPhone is actually being very useful here. There was a particular case where a service road had only been partially plowed, which some folks drove down without, they didn't know that it had only been partially plowed. They got like 20 kilometers down the road and they got stuck. And fortunately, the emergency SOS feature was able to contact the emergency services in, I believe this is in Canada, and then it was emergency teams in British Columbia were able to get out there and rescue them, but they had the exact GPS coordinates of where they were, which made it so much easier to find them. So yeah, absolutely fabulous. I'm glad to hear that this is working. It's one of those things. It's a shame when these features don't necessarily work as intended, like those folks who were skiing and snowboarding and who accidentally triggered it. That's definitely a downside, but also every time it saves somebody's life, it is worth it. And we do hear that with many Apple products, the Apple Watch and now Emergency SOS. So I'm glad to hear that this is going to make those folks' lives who are doing the rescuing a lot easier, and hopefully mean that there are going to be fewer people who don't make it when they're being rescued.
Absolutely. And then, if you haven't checked it out yet, you can get your Apple Music Replay 2023 playlist. That is, I think that you had to go into the Apple Music online system to be able to get it before. Now they're making it available to you right there in the app. So if you didn't go online and do the whole process where you sign in and it spits out a bunch of information for you, it's now available to you to just see what songs you listened to in the previous year.
Yeah. You can just find that hopefully by searching for Replay 2023 in the Apple Music library, and it should show you, what you've been playing, which is pretty cool.
And last but not least, the reviews are in for the second generation HomePod. Of course, we had a great episode last week talking all about the HomePod, talking about using AirPlay. And the second gen HomePod is an iteration on the first gen with lots of reviews that say, hey, it sounds great, but it is a lot like the first gen, and that's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah. So some folks were saying that, basically based on the hardware inside of these speakers, that they weren't going to be as good as the first gen HomePods, which I have a couple of. There's one hiding over my shoulder behind the Sneaky Snack on my left here. And I have to say, I do love my original HomePods. They're great. I also love my HomePod minis. And I have a HomePod second gen arriving on Friday. So we're going to have a look at them and see whether or not it's, as good as it is. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to pair it with any of my existing HomePods. But one very cool thing that I would like to note is that the HomePod second gen has a new cable. And when I say new cable, I'm not talking about the original HomePod cable, which wasn't removable unless you removed it very, very, very firmly, or the HomePod Mini cable, which is USB-C on one end and connected inside of the HomePod Mini on the other end. This is a standard figure of 8 or C7 cable. And I think that that's actually pretty nice because when I moved back here from Austria, I had European plugs on all my HomePods. And yeah, you can't replace that cable. I tried asking Apple if I could get new cables with UK plugs on, and the answer is no. So I have adapters on all of my HomePods, which is fine, but not great. So the fact that there's now just a standard cable means that that's going to be a lot easier for folks to just swap that around or replace it. Or if you have a pet that thinks, hey, cable, that looks tasty, then you're going to be able to sort of having to go through Apple Care.
That is good to hear. All right, with that, I think I can hear the music, which means it's time for Shortcuts Corner. Welcome to Shortcuts Corner. This is the part of the show where you write in with your Shortcuts Corner requests, and Rosemary Orchard, your Shortcuts expert, provides a response. Today's Shortcut Corner comes from Craig, who writes, I am looking to create a shortcut which will achieve the following. At 6 o'clock, check the temperature, and if it is 1 degree Celsius or below, send the SMS message, temperature at this location is current temperature, shut the car park. Then, each hour, check the temperature at the location and send an SMS message when it is 2 degrees Celsius to say, open the car park, to run the automation each weekday between 5 o'clock and 1500 hours, which is that's 3 p.m. So 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. Craig says any help would be appreciated. So Rosemary, take it away.
Right. Well, this one is going to require a couple of different pieces. So hopefully you're going to be able to keep track of this, Craig. But essentially what you need is an automation that runs at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, whichever your first one is, which checks. And then that will tell you to shut the car park. And then you're going to need other automations which run the same shortcut every time. You're going to want to run shortcut action for that, which can then, actually check the temperature and go, okay, now open it, and then, don't run it anymore, or, keep waiting basically for the next time around. So first of all, just to make it clear, you're not going to be able to do this using home automations. So I'm not sure completely if you were looking at using HomeKit with temperature sensors, or if you were looking at using the weather app. But when you go to create a new personal automation for this, it is going to be a personal automation, not a home automation, because a home automation cannot send an SMS. So I'm just going to start with the first one of the day, which I'm going to presume is 5 a.m. because you said, Craig, that you wanted to run it between 5 a.m. and 3 p.m. And so I'll just turn that on to 5 a.m. and start. So first of all, we need to get the temperature. So Shortcuts has some really great integrations with the weather app. And so I'm going to use this. Obviously, whatever weather solution or HomeKit sensor you were looking at using will work for this as well. But inside of the weather app in Shortcuts, which is working very slowly on my phone, probably because I'm sharing my screen. There we go. I can use the get current weather. And then there's another action, which is get the details of the weather conditions, which we're going to want to use. So we're going to say get the temperature from the weather. Okay, so if I just run this now, then you'll see it's showing me that it's 6.36 degrees. So at this point, your car park would be open, right? And you probably, if it was, below 2 degrees or below 1 degree in the morning, then you would be wanting to know that you should open it now. And so assuming that this is the first one of the day, we are going to use our if statement. And then we can just check to see if it's less than 1. Simple enough, right? If I could find an if action. I suspect the fact that my keyboard has switched itself to French is part of what is causing this slowness. There it is. There is my if action. So if the temperature, and then we can go with is less than, and we'll say if it's less than 1. Okay, I'll just delete that otherwise, and then we'll have the send message in here. And I'm not going to send a message to my mom. I don't think that she would want a random message coming from me at 5 o'clock in the morning. But I'm showing folks the send message action. I'm not going to set it all up. You can just tap in here and then tap return, and then you've got the temperature as a piece of information that you can actually use to send your message. But what is very important is when you look at this, and if you expand that action, you make sure that show when run is turned off. Because if show when run is turned on, it's not going to just automatically send this in the background. Okay. And then when we've done this next action, we're going to want to turn off that ask before running, because otherwise this isn't just going to run. Okay. And then done. Okay. So that's our first one. Very simple. But what we probably want to do on top of this is have some way of knowing if the gate is open or closed. So I'm going to pop back into this, and then I'm just going to add a data jar action. And I'm going to use data jar for this because it's a great way to just save some information so that I can grab it again in a different shortcut later. And so in data jar, I can use a set variable action or a set data action once it pops up on data jar. Or the shortcuts. Shortcuts is being very slow at the moment, unfortunately. There we go. So I can set a value to, and I'll just put car park as the key. And I will just change that from the temperature, tap clear on that, and then I can set it to something. You can set whatever you like in here. What I would probably do or recommend doing is using a text action. And then we can just say that it should be closed. And there we go. And so I'll just select that piece of text. Come on. Perfect. And then that's that. Simple. So, or relatively simple. Don't worry, there'll be a screenshot of that one in the show notes. And then what we need to do every hour after this is we're going to need to run that same shortcut and check, or a new shortcut and check if the gate is closed, then should we open it? So I will just pop this open. And so we will start with data jar. And this time, instead of getting data or setting data, we're going to get data, which is running a little slowly. I really wish that this was working faster like it did earlier in all of my testing. But there we go. So data jar, we can get the value of data. Okay. And then if it's closed, then we're going to want to check the temperature, just like we did before. And then if it's above 2 degrees, then we're going to want to send the message. So I'm going to use the get value, and we called it car park before. So I'm going to look for car park. And then we will say if, and what I'm going to do here, okay, is I'm going to do a little cheat. Okay, which is I am going to say if this car park, and I'll just tap on this and I should be able to change this to text. Lovely. So I've just tapped on value and I've changed the type to text, and then I can say, so if it is open, which I think I accidentally set the other one to in the text earlier, but I will correct that for a screenshot that I can share with folks. There is a great action in shortcuts called stop. And the stop action in shortcuts will just stop. And that's it. Game over. Finished. Okay. So if the car park's open, we don't want to go through and do all of the other checks, right? Let's make this more efficient, better for your battery life, and so on. Okay. And then what we need to do is get weather, get details of weather with the temperature, and then just like we did before with the if action, check. And if it's above 2 degrees, then we should send a message saying open the car park. And so I will finish that off and make sure that we have this shortcut and a screenshot of the other shortcut in the show notes for folks. But I think that this is a really interesting exercise to play with in shortcuts, because it's a really great example of, well, if this thing has happened in the day, I want to be able to check on it and then say, when this other thing changes, go do that thing. And there's a number of ways you can do this. You might also want to look into using something like pushcut or pushover, push bullet, or even just shortcuts to send yourself a notification rather than sending an SMS, but whatever works for you.
Beautiful. All right, we've got some quick feedback and questions before we head into our app caps to round out the show. This first question is going to be a good learning moment for all of us. So this one comes from John. John writes, while watching iOS today, I tried to cast the program via AirPlay to the TV. It would not let me. I was able to cast Windows Weekly. I am curious if you are blocking AirPlay of the iOS Today show. John. So the learning moment that I want us all to have here is surrounding kind of how you are able to get the answers that you hope to get out of a question that you ask. And I think that, if it was me, I definitely would be a little bit concerned. Like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to bore them with a long message. I don't want to don't worry about that. Always include as much information as you possibly can. Think of it as, if I were to take my car to the garage at, nearby repair shop and say, yeah, my car's not working. And they would say, okay, what does that mean? And really what I was trying to say is my tire is making a rumbling noise when it's on the highway, and it's because the tire is flat. Then, we want to be as specific as possible. So narrow in to the tire, talk about the tire, maybe take photos of the tire, say exactly what you heard whenever you were on the highway, say that it only happens on the highway, that it doesn't happen when you're not on the highway, say that you thought you heard, if you know the term, a lug nut fell off. All of these things, all of these details help to tell us what we need to know, because right now with this question, I don't know if you are using AirPlay via the built-in screen mirroring tool that's in iOS. I don't know if you're AirPlaying using the first-party podcasts app or a third-party app. I don't know if you are AirPlaying to an Apple TV or if you're AirPlaying to a TV that supports AirPlay, like the TCL Roku TV. I don't know how you were casting Windows Weekly versus iOS Today. So there are so many questions that we have here that I would need to know, those details that I would need to know in order to provide you with an answer. So take screenshots. If you don't know how to take screenshots, let us know. We'll show you how to do that. Send as much information as you possibly can. And in doing so, then we're able to dial in and actually answer your questions. Since we aren't able to get you on the show live and ask you those questions where it's a back and forth, we need to have those ahead of time so that we're able to answer that question. So John, please write us back with loads more information about what's going on there. And then hopefully we will be able to answer that question for you. But what I can tell you is we don't have show-by-show filters for AirPlay, where some shows get to AirPlay and others do not. Moving on to Alice's question. Alice writes, "Hi, Mikah and Rosemary. My daughter is having a problem with her email. Could you please help her? She has a recent iPhone with iOS 16.2. She also uses a 2021 MacBook Air with Ventura installed." Love it, Alice. We know the operating system. We know what year. She uses the iOS mail app on her phone to check her Gmail. When she deletes an email in that account, it does not simultaneously delete on her MacBook. But if she deletes an email in the mail app on her MacBook, it does simultaneously delete on the phone. It used to delete on both devices seamlessly, but a couple of months ago, it stopped. She has restarted both the iPhone and the laptop, updated the software, and looked for settings that might have been changed. We can't seem to solve the problem. I suggested that she delete the Gmail account on the iPhone and then reinstall it. She's nervous about doing that, afraid it might be difficult to reinstall. Do you think that could help? And is there anything she should do or know about deleting and reinstalling it? Do you have any other suggestions? Love your show. You are both so knowledgeable and helpful. We appreciate whatever help you might offer. Thank you, Alice. Alice, wonderful questions. First and foremost, the most important thing to understand here is email used to work a whole lot differently from how it works these days. Back in the day, when you would get an email and you would download it to your machine, you would quite literally download the whole thing to your machine, and it would be this file, and it would be there on your machine, and you, in deleting it, would lose it. It'd be gone. But the modern way that email works is more like the way that the photos library works. I'm trying to do a comparison here. So it used to be, let's think about birds. Okay. It used to be that the robin from the tree would fly down and land in your palm, and then you would have that robin, and you could archive that robin, or you could reply to that robin. You could send, forward that robin along to someone else. The way that email works now is instead you've got a pair of binoculars. And so you look up at the robin that's in the tree, and you can see it and interact with it exactly as you need to without ever having to kind of have it. Okay. So email kind of exists on a server somewhere, and your local machines give you the ability to view what is there on those servers. Now, some email applications will also do downloading, and if there are files attached, obviously you're downloading those. But for the most part, it is simply kind of viewing what's available on the server. So in having this concern about deleting the account, that's not really going to be an issue, because when you go to add it again, it's just going to kind of refresh and have everything there. Now, what it sounds like to me, Alice, is at some point, a refresh setting may have changed on the Mac. So where before you were seeing kind of an instant response where those emails it was syncing from whenever the phone did it to when the Mac did it, something somewhere is not quite as quick as it used to be in keeping those two in sync. So with different applications, with different mail applications, there are kind of different technologies being used, where one, it has this this little message that gets sent out from the server that says, hey, an update has happened, so you better come and take a look and see what's going on here. It's like the bird is chirping at you from the tree. And the other one is not a bird chirping at you from the tree. It's that you, in your mind, go, oh, I should pick up the binoculars and look at the bird. So you, every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, every 20 seconds, go and see if anything's changed, versus the other one where the bird is telling you, hey, I've changed. You need to look at this now. And with Gmail, that is the one where you kind of have to go and look again to see what has happened. And I think that these two might be out of sync. It's possible that removing that Gmail account, which again should not be an issue, will fix this change in the syncing. But I'm curious, Rosemary, if you have any thoughts on how, if that's the way that you would go with it, or if there's some other suggestion you have.
Yeah, so I would actually install the Gmail app or go to mail.google.com and look in there just to make sure that everything that is what you've done on your Mac is there, just to make sure. If it isn't, then that points to the Mac being the problem rather than the iPhone being the problem. But one of the things that strikes me is a lot of folks do this. Does your daughter maybe keep her phone in low power mode all the time? Because if you're in low power mode, then one of the things that your phone will do to preserve battery is to slow down / stop automatically refreshing email in the background until you go in and manually pull to refresh, or you open the app and then it goes and it looks for emails. And Gmail in particular doesn't have the ability to go, hey, iPhone, there's a new message. So your phone is going out and looking. Other things like Microsoft Exchange usually have the ability to come to your device and go, hey, there's some new stuff on the server. Can you go look at that for us, please? And then your iPhone will go fetch the data. Whereas with Gmail, what your phone has to do is every so often it has to go and look for stuff. And if there's a lot of stuff happening, if your daughter maybe gets a lot of email, maybe there's a lot of subscriptions in her inbox, then it's entirely possible that the phone is just struggling to do that, especially if she's locked in low power mode all the time. So I would double check in Google Mail itself to make sure that things are there as you expect them to be. But I suspect that all it is just delete the account in the iOS settings app, add the account again, and she'll probably be good to go. If she's had an iPhone for a while, then I suspect that what it is the account settings have just come along with her for a really long time. Even though she's gone through new iPhones, if she's restored her backup, then those settings will have stayed the same likely. And it's possible that something's just got a little bit out of sync somewhere, but she shouldn't lose any data at all. So yeah, I would recommend going and doing that.
Beautiful. All right. With that, it is time to move along home to our app caps. It's time for App Caps. This is the part of the show where we place caps atop our heads to honor our app or gadget picks of the week. These are the apps or gadgets we are using now, or may have been using for some time, that we think are so great that we want to share them with you. And so in doing so, we also prepare ourselves with a little bit of delight and fun by way of a cap placed atop our head. So Rosemary Orchard, tell us about the cap atop your head. Whoa, my microphone is down here now. Tell us about the cap atop your head, and then tell us about your pick of the week.
All right. Well, the cap atop my head, it's more of a hat or a helmet. Though it's a plastic helmet, I would not recommend this for sport than a hat. I'm wearing a plastic Viking helmet. It's gold. It's got white tusks, and then it's got some little black bits, which I think are supposed to sort of be a very, 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 very dark red at the end. I'm not going to think about that too much, and I'll hope that the tips of the horns disappear off the top of the screen. But one of the reasons why I picked this is because there are some apps that have just been around for a really long time, and they're absolutely fabulous, and we don't talk about them enough. And the app that I'm talking about today is pCalc. pCalc recently celebrated its 30th anniversary, and I have been playing with pCalc a lot for various reasons recently. And one of the things that I stumbled across in pCalc, which you can actually use, is the fact that it actually has custom functions built in. So along with all of the other features where you can change it so that you've got key clicks and you can change the app icon and the haptic touch and all of the fun stuff, what you can also do is run a function. And you can actually even add your own here. And so there are various functions for complex numbers where you can plus something into the memory or similar. There are financial ones where you can get a tax rate and then calculate tax. So if I had 42, for example, here, and I pop into the functions, the tax on £42 would be £8.40. If I add the tax, it would cost me £50.40. Then, I've got, if I subtracted tax, so if I tried to take the VAT away from this, I get £35. Lovely. There are trigonometric functions, which I can't pronounce, which are very difficult to say. So if you want to know what the hyperbolic cosecant is, or the inverse hyperbolic cosecant or cotangent, you've got all of those options. And not only that, you've got user functions. So I can actually go ahead and add my own custom user functions here where I can choose what I'm going to do. So X is this number that I have here displayed on the screen, just so folks know. And I'll just pop 42 back in there just to make sure that that is working. And then, so I can choose what I'm going to do with this. So I can set this into a different memory bank if I need to. I can inverse it, by making it negative or just negate it as well. There's inverse powers, there's logs, switching to degrees and radians and grads, all of the sorts of mathematical things that you might want. And pCalc is just a really, really, really powerful and great calculator. I can't recommend it enough. It is a $9.99 one-time purchase for the app, and I've had it for a stupid amount of time and feel like I've got way more money's worth out of it. And not only this, I will just undo rotation lock, and I suspect that my phone's going to look a little bit funny when I rotate it around. Yeah, it does. There's a proper horizontal layout as well, with all sorts of extra buttons on there, including various other functions that you may want or need as you go through. It even has things like a tape. So if you need to know, so if I were to do something like this, and then times by 5 divided by 2 equals, then I can go onto my tape and view exactly what's happened at various points in this history, so I can see what's going on there, and I can share that. I can share that tape with somebody. So if I'm trying to show somebody how I've calculated something and worked something out, I can do that. I can add notes. I can add dates. I can do whatever it is that I like. And I just think that this is such a great app. If you're there going, gosh, I don't know, calculator app, $9.99, that sounds kind of pricey. There's also pCalc Lite. But I feel I should say, when you get pCalc, you don't just get pCalc, you get pCalc in all the places. pCalc exists on Apple TV, it's on Apple Watch, it's on the iPhone, iPad, and the Mac. So you can get pCalc in all the places. The Mac app and the Apple TV app are separate purchases, but honestly, it's so worth it for such a great app that is, at this point, and I mean this in the best of ways without trying to make James, the developer, have a midlife crisis. It is almost a history in that it's been around for so long, and it's so important to how I do everything on my Mac. So I highly recommend it.
Beautiful. Let's see. I am setting up to show you the app that I want to talk about, because I realized I've got to have the camera or the display rotated to the side. So the app this week that I'm talking about, oh, interesting. It appears that it did it already for me. So let me make it normal again here, and then we will switch over to that. Now you should be able to see it. This is the app called Creatures, I believe. Yes, Creatures of the Deep. And in this app, it's kind of a little mini game fishing expedition where you are a little person on a boat and you are going around and collecting items so that you can build up your own little island. But the point of the game is to go around and fish. There are little challenges, kind of quests that take place as you are growing your level. And while you're doing so, there are kind of these big fish that you're hoping to find. So here I am in the east water right now, and I'll show you kind of the fishing mechanism. You can go anywhere, but you particularly want to go where you can kind of see these fish hanging around and making bubbles on the top of the water. And so all I have to do is I tap somewhere and to throw my my fishing reel into the water. And then I wait for that bobber to go underneath the water and stay underneath the water. And it has some delightful haptic feedback as well. And there we go. I caught a blue trevally, I'm not sure. But apparently that was a new record for me. That was the heaviest blue trevally I've caught. And I will continue to go through and catch them. And then what happens is after you've caught them, you go back to your kind of home island and you can sell them. So right now I'm kind of catching regular fish, but I'm in the process. I got a spot fin porcupine fish. I'm in the process of trying to catch a gigantic sort of mythical fish that exists in this area. I have to wait to hear more from like this ship captain who is helping me find that. And you may notice moving across the screen, if you're watching, there was a huge sort of stingray shaped creature that was in the water. And that is one of those big fish that you can end up catching. So it's a little resource management and I guess a bit of an adventure role-playing game. Oh, and I should mention these other boats that are here, those are real players. Those are other players who are playing the game while you're playing the game. So it actually does have some collaboration features. I don't think you're able to talk to anyone, which I think is good because people can be terrible on the internet. So you all just kind of fish and hang out and you don't need to say anything to each other because, hey, when you're fishing, you just want to focus on fishing. Oh, and this is new to me. There's some sort of chef here who probably wants to buy fish. And look, I'm sorry. I'm looking for someone with more experience. Come back later. So apparently I don't know enough. And then Anita Angler says, hey, you just met the best angler that ever graced this water. It's me. I've already caught 7 various fish on this location. If you discover as much, I will give you something valuable. It appears I've already caught 7 fish. So I can say, hey, I did that. And now I've got some bait from Anita Angler, which apparently I can throw down and use to catch fish. So that's exciting. That's new. And they're all different parts of the water. Different parts of the water will have different kinds of fish that you catch. There's like a tuna bay where I was catching gigantic tuna. But beware, because those tuna will break your fishing pole. So you got to be careful. You'll have to buy more fishing poles. It's fun. And it is available to download for free. There is an in-app purchase mechanism that is not too ridiculous but what I'm saying by not too ridiculous is that you don't need to pay for it. It gets you gems, which gets you more coins, which you can use to buy more things in the game. And you can make that money just by playing it and by fishing and selling those fish. So not necessary to play it. This was featured as like an app of the week or something like that recently. So that's what made me download it. And I have been enjoying it because it's very laid back and I can just kind of occasionally pop in and do some fishing and then move on. And I forgot to mention the cap atop my head is a huge stocking cap that says frostbite on it, which is kind of ironic because it's supposed to prevent that. It's because it's pretty cold here this morning. I woke up and I thought, I don't think I'm going to get out of bed because that's going to be cold and I don't want to do that. But I am warming up slowly but surely as the day goes on. And that is Creatures of the Deep. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of iOS Today. If you have questions, concerns, feedback, all sorts of stuff, you can send that sorts of stuff, remember about a little talk earlier. Let's get as much information from you as we possibly can. Send it to iOS today at twit.tv. We record this show live every Tuesday at noon Eastern. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you can tune in live at twit.tv/live to watch us record the show. But if you want the show, once it's available, once it's edited, once it's put together, once it's beautifully packaged, well, you do that by going to twit.tv/iOS. There, you can subscribe to the show or follow the show in audio and video formats just by clicking on subscribe to audio or subscribe to video. We are on many platforms, so Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Pocket Casts. We try to be in all the places to make sure that wherever you're listening and however you're listening, you are able to get it there. Again, at twit.tv/iOS. If you'd like to get all of our shows ad-free, in essence, become the sponsor of the show. And in fact, that's kind of what's happened this week. Club Twit has made this show possible. You can join the club at twit.tv/clubtwit, starting at $7 a month or $84 a year. When you do, you get all shows with no ads. So you, in effect, are the one that is bringing us bringing the show out. So you don't have to listen to those ads. You also get Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else. That's behind the scenes, before the show, after the show, all that magic, and access to the members only Discord server, which is a fun place to go to chat with your fellow Club Twit members and also those of us here at Twit. I say starting at $7 a month because we heard from some folks who said, I feel like I want to give you more, but you only allow $7 a month. Is there a way for us to do that? And we said, okay, let's make that possible. So now, yes, you can pay more per month if you'd like to, or the $84 a year subscription as well. And it doesn't stop there, folks. We continue to make the club a very valuable thing for folks who are subscribers because you get access to some great shows. The Untitled Linux Show, which is, as you might imagine, a show all about Linux. Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott, a short format show that walks you through Windows tips and tricks. And my show, Hands on Mac, which is a show all about making the most of your Apple devices. It's a lot like iOS Today in that particular sense, but it is a short format show that focuses on super specific topics and kind of little tips, tricks, and new features that come out all the time. So please check out all three of those shows as Club Twit members, and we thank you for supporting us. Twit.tv/Club Twit. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you are doing, where should they go to do that?
The best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to all the things that I'm doing around the internet, and I'm in the process of updating it at the moment as well. And of course, you can find me on many social media sites, Rosemary Orchard on many places. If you want to find me on Mastodon, I'm rosemary at snailedit.social. And also, if you toot at the show, which is iOS Today at twit.social, then we do get your feedback as well if you fancy sharing it with us that way. But other than that, yeah, I'm various places on the internet. Mikah, what about you?
You can find me at Mikah Sargent on many social media networks. You can also check out chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Yeah, that's pretty much how you find me. So please do come hang out. I am at Mikah Sargent at mastodon.social is the Mastodon one. So thank you all for your time this week, for tuning in, for sharing your thoughts, for hanging out, or for listening to this after the fact. Thank you to those of you who have had questions and have written in with those, who have had Shortcuts Corner requests and have written in with those. It means a lot to us to know you're out there listening and that you are enjoying the show. We will see you next time for another episode of iOS Today. Goodbye. Hey there, I'm Mikah Sargent. Look, as a geek myself, I feel it's only fair if I admit something. We can be kind of hard to shop for. So what do you get for that geek in your life who has everything already? Well, a Club Twit gift subscription, of course. Twit podcasts keep them informed and entertained with the most relevant tech news podcasts available. With a Club Twit subscription, they're going to get access to all of our podcasts ad-free
exclusive outtakes, behind the scenes and special content, and I love this, exclusive shows like my own Hands on Mac and Hands on Windows from Paul Thurrott, as well as the Untitled Linux Show. So purchase your geek's gift at twit.tv/clubtwit, and they will thank you every day.